Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some feedback on a candidate's writing task 1 academic. But it's not the typical one. So usually we get some graphs or charts and we have to pick out and select the key features, but in this one it is a process diagram. So these ones are always a little bit trickier, I think, than the writing about graphs, but as always we start by reading the question, making sure we understand what we have to do, and also we want to spend a little bit of time really looking at the diagram and trying to pick out those key features. So first, before we do anything, of course, we read the question. So let's make this just a little bigger. So the diagram below shows the manufacturing process for making sugar from sugarcane. Okay, so we all know what sugar is, right? We buy it in these packs, this white grains of sugar, but we know that it starts in the field. So how does it go from growing in the field to becoming a product in the store? That's what this diagram will show us. As always, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Now, I don't think any comparisons will be relevant here. Maybe possibly just one, but really not important. But that's summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. That's written for all of these IELTS Task 1 academic writing tasks. But okay, let's take a moment. Write at least 150 words, always important to keep that in mind, and you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. So we really want to spend a bit of time really getting to know this process, really understanding what's going on here. So I'll zoom in a little bit closer. So we can see that the first step is that these sugar canes grow in the field. And then the second step, what's going on here? We have two things. The harvesting. Now, what is this? Okay, so these sugar canes are being cut. And it seems to me that there are two ways of harvesting. Either we can harvest it using machinery, using, I guess there's some tractors or some other things, or we can do it by hand. You can see this person is cutting the sugar cane with this device. I'm not even sure what that thing is called, or we can do it with the machines. I think they're both doing the same thing. They're both cutting down those sugar canes. So in short, two ways of harvesting the sugar canes. One of them is with machinery, the other one is by hand. Okay, after that we get to the crushing stage. So we crush these sugar canes, and after we crush them it forms some type of juice. Then we go to stage 4, which is purifying the juice. So this is a good way of breaking it down. The first 3 stages are all kind of in the field, I guess. Or at least the first 2 stages are in the field. Third one, I guess the crushing can happen in the field, or it can happen, I guess, in a factory or something like this. Okay, so then we get to the purification of this juice. So after this juice is created, it probably has, some elements in there that we don't want. So we use this thing called a limestone filter to get the pure juice, the juice that we want without all of that extra unnecessary stuff. After that, we put it into something called an evaporator. So we use heat, we warm something up, and this juice then turns into a syrup. Cool. Stage 6, we put this syrup into a centrifuge. So centrifuge is something that spins around, just like in your washing machine. So why do we do this? Well, this separates the sugar crystals from the syrup. So once we have the syrup, we are interested in the crystals. So we want to extract those crystals and throw away the syrup, I guess. And then finally, once we get those sugar crystals, we let them dry, we let them cool. And that's the end of the process. This is a linear process, not a cyclical process. Sometimes you get processes that go round and round, but this one is a linear, starting at stage 1 and going to stage 7. So really think with these process diagram exercises, it really is worth spending a little bit of time really to look at it. I know you only have 20 minutes and you have to write 150 words, but I think it is important to spend that time looking exactly at the process chart, making sure that we understand the different steps. In terms of structure, what am I looking for here? So probably 4 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 will be a direct paraphrase of the diagram below shows the manufacturing process for making sugar from sugarcane. So something simple like the diagram explains how sugar is made, how the product of sugar is made, or it shows the end-to-end process or the linear process of the production of sugar. Or production of sugar crystals, perhaps, or sugar grains. Yeah, and that's probably enough. You might want to say how many stages there are, or starting from blah blah blah, ending with blah blah blah. Getting into paragraph 2, we want some type of overview. So the overview should help us to understand. The overview should help us to understand where the essay is going. So I might divide this into, things that you do outside and things that you do inside. So we could split it steps 1 to 3 in paragraph 3, and then steps 4 to 7 in paragraph 4. But okay, let's see how our candidate does. Okay, let's make that a little smaller. All right, the process flow diagram. The process diagram is fine, I think. Process flow I don't know if flow diagram is a collocation. A process flow diagram. It sounds like a strange collocation. Process diagram is fine. Below. Well, it's not below anymore. It's below in this text, right? Diagram below. But now your text is here. So if anything, it's above. But we don't need to write where, below, above. Just the diagram, the process diagram describes describes the steps involved in the production of the final product, sugar from sugarcane, through a particular method. I don't know about this through a particular method. It sounds vague. I don't know what you mean through a particular method. I think we can just take this off now. In the production of the final product, sugar from sugarcane. It's enough. Okay, so getting to the overview, there are about 7 stages. About 7 stages. This seems imprecise, right? So in academic writing, when you speak, we are often imprecise. There are about 7 stages. I don't remember exactly. In academic writing, we want to be as precise as possible. So if in academic writing you write that there are about 7 stages, it kind of feels like the candidate is lazy here, right? Like, oh, I didn't bother to count them. I don't know. I don't remember. Well, count them. There are 7 stages. Now, probably the candidate has looked at harvesting in stage 2 and thought, well, is that 1 stage or is that 2 stages? And so they've gone with about 7 stages, probably. But there are 7 stages. The point in step 2 here is that there are 2 ways of harvesting, one with machinery or one cutting by hand, but there are 7 stages in total. They are written, they are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I don't like this about, but okay, it's a very small thing. There are about 7 stages that constitute the manufacturing process of sugar from sugarcane. Okay. This method of producing sugar can be categorized into 2 main sections. Categorize, I guess you could categorize them. Divided, maybe. First could be the first could be the process is carried out in the field. Good, I like that. Where the sugarcane is grown. Secondly, the treatments that the processed sugarcane from the field. Hold on. Secondly, the treatments that the processed sugarcane from the field undergoes to culminate into pure sugar. Okay, very complex sentence, but that does work. It does make sense. Probably I'd want to add a full stop here into 2 main sections, or maybe even a semicolon, and the first could be Okay, but it's fine. The language looks academic in nature, and it is clear, and it's well controlled for grammar. The first, but fine. Um, I think just in terms of style, we could say the first could be the processes, blah, 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 while the second include blah, 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 just having that consistency. Or we could say, firstly, there are processes carried out in the field, and secondly, there are treatments that the processed sugarcane from the field undergoes. So, firstly, secondly, or the first, the second, that would add maybe better consistency. But okay, no big problems so far. Very good, very strong language. Now, let's get into the next two paragraphs. So, what I'm looking for, one thing that I'm looking for with all of these process charts is sequencing language. So, first we do this, and then we do this. After we do this, we do this. Having done that, we do this. A lot of the big challenge, I think, for these process charts is how not to become super repetitive with our constructions, because we could simply say, and then we blah 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 blah, and then we blah 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 blah, and then we blah 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 blah. So we want to have a variety of sequencing language. And secondly, there's probably going to be a lot of passive voice here, right? Because it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter who harvests the sugar canes, or who crushes the sugarcane, or who purifies the sugarcane. So when it's not important who does it, probably we rely on the passive more. The sugarcane is cut, and the sugarcane is crushed, and the sugarcane is purified. So I'm looking for lots of present simple, passive, and lots of language connected to sequencing. First this, then this, after that, having done this. So let's see if we get some of that language here. So the main activities that are carried out, good, we get that passive that I was speaking about. I like this phrasal verb carried out. Some people say you shouldn't use phrasal verbs in academic writing. Carry out is as an example of a phrasal verb that is often used in academic writing. No problem there. The main activities that are carried out in the agricultural land, okay, fine, involve the stages of growing and harvesting. The sugar cane that is consumed. Okay, I don't know if we need this. This feels extra, right? Just looking at the text, this is quite a lot of text, and so I'm thinking, what parts could we edit out? Let's just check first of all how many words this is. Yeah, 258 words. In short, that's too many. You have to write at least 150 words. I would recommend, go up to 200 if you want, but I really think just in terms of time management, writing 258 words, anything more than 200, I would recommend against it. And so looking at this now, I'm just looking at which parts could we possibly cut out. Sorry. Okay, so I think that could be cut out, right? The sugarcane is grown for about 12 to 18 months in the field, is fine. We don't need that is consumed for industrial production of sugar. Don't need it. After which, yeah, just comma there. In the field, comma, after which it undergoes harvesting in the field. So I don't know. These articles, very often we can use them, but we could drop them. I feel it's more natural without the. But in the field, comma, after which it undergoes the harvesting in the field. So I really like these relative clauses with a relative pronoun which, who, is placed after the preposition. I think it's very good in terms of style, like before which, after which, because of which. Very good, but they should come after commas. They shouldn't start sentences. Okay. Where with the help of large specialized motor vehicles like a shredder coupled with a collector are used as a... Okay, let's reread this sentence. Sorry about that. So after which it undergoes the harvesting in the field, where with the help of large specialized motor vehicles like a shredder. I don't know, is a shredder really an agricultural vehicle? I don't know. coupled with a collector are used as a unit to gather all the sugarcane in the field. Okay, so this candidate has a different interpretation, I guess, to mine. This candidate thinks that both of these things are used. First, there's a shredder and there's a collector, or the two people do it, or the person and the machines do it at the same time. I interpreted it slightly differently, where you have two options. Either you can harvest using harvesting machinery, agricultural machinery. I don't know about vehicles here. Machinery sounds better. Or either the machinery or doing it by hand. But it's okay. This candidate had a slightly different interpretation. Not a problem. Okay, the stages that are completed in the factory can be stated as being, we don't need all of this, can be stated as being, again, just we can shorten it. The stages again that are completed, we don't need it. The stages in the factory include crushing, right? We can again cut down our word count and we can make it less busy in terms of our language. We want efficiency, efficient language. The stages in the factory include crushing, juice purification, and so on. But let's see. Crushing, juice purification, the use of an evaporator. So a little bit lacking with articles here. The use of an evaporator, centrifugation, and drying and cooling the syrup. Okay. Now remember, part of the task is selecting the key things, and this seems to be just a bit listy. You know, the candidate has just listed all of the steps. I agree. It's with these process charts. I see why candidates want to include all of the steps. But anyway, the sugarcane produced in the fields is first crushed. Okay, but we're kind of doing. You've mentioned that here, right? So you've given a list of the stages, and then you've started speaking about, we've gone back to the crushing. I think you could just maybe take away all of this if you want to cut down. We don't need to list the steps, all of the steps, and then start talking about the key steps. We could just start with this. The sugarcane produced in the fields is first crushed. I think that's fine. So all of this stuff, I think you can take out. How many words is that? That's 26 words that you could cut out. It's a bit of time that you could save. Okay. So the sugarcane produced in the fields, again, we know that it's produced in the fields. We know we've already spoken about that. So again, you can take out this clause. The sugarcane is crushed to produce sugarcane juice, and just juice is fine, to produce juice which is then purified, so good use of then, sequencing language, with the help of a large commercial sized funnel. The size, I don't know if the size is relevant, but okay, it's showing good language, but kind of an irrelevant detail. Funnel, love this term. Do we have that word funnel? No, they use the word filter, but my candidate has used the word funnel. Great stuff. Lined with limestone filter paper layer. Now, where are you getting those details from? It says it's a limestone filter, but lined with limestone filter paper layer. You've included this. This is extra information that isn't in the diagram that you've included. Now, it's very good language. I really like the language, and it might be true that they might, the filter might be lined with limestone paper, but that isn't in the text. That isn't in the diagram, and so we don't need to include it. The juice is directed into an industrial evaporator. Okay, directed is all right. Nice flexibility, nice variety of verbs, instead of just put or placed, but is directed. Cool. Into an industrial evaporator, which converts the liquid juice into dense syrup. Again, I like the candidate is trying to add extra details with showing good language, but The density of the syrup isn't mentioned here in the diagram, and it seems to be extra details that the candidate is inventing, either because the candidate knows about how sugar is made, or maybe the candidate did some extra research into how sugar is made, but we want to focus on the details that are presented in the diagram. We don't want to add any extra details that are not in the diagram. But okay, the sugar crystals that are separated from the, not even sure what this word is, but cool, the, don't know, syrup, through the application of the centrifuge, and we don't need the machine, the centrifuge is fine, is then dried and cooled to produce pure sugar that is widely consumed. Okay, so let's look at, let's give some scores. So task achievement, I would say we will give an 8. Yeah, this probably, no, I'm going to drop it to a 7, and I'll explain why. So in general, you clearly explain the various steps of the production of sugar. However, you add too many details that are not given in the diagram. So don't add, and it also, this makes it super long, 258 words. It is almost twice as long as it should be. So I just, yeah, because of those extra irrelevant details, that's pulling your task achievement down to a 7. Okay, but coherence and cohesion. So some of your sentences are a little complex and need to be reread, but they are academic in style and communicate the idea relatively clearly. So some examples of that, for example, if I'm going back to this sentence, right? Secondly, the treatments that the processed sugarcane from the field undergoes to culminate into pure sugar. It requires a little bit of rereading, which is okay. It's academic, it's fine. Having a look at at cohesion. So there are lots of good things in the, okay, very simple. This method, cool. We get first and secondly. Again, I'd prefer firstly and secondly, or the first thing is blah, 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 and the second thing is blah, 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 blah. We do get some nice relative clauses there, after which is very nice. We get simple words like then, which help with the sequence. So yeah, in terms of cohesion, it is cohesive as a text. Yeah, so I guess there is enough in there for an 8. Very easy to understand. It is cohesive with lots of these cohesive devices. Probably enough for an 8. Lexical resource. So is there enough for a, maybe not quite enough for a 9 here. So an excellent range of vocabulary. An excellent range of vocabulary, which is academic in style and fully relevant to the task, to the topic. However, there are occasional oddities, strange things with collocation. So what do I mean by that? Some strange thing with collocation? Well, the process flow diagram. I don't know, maybe it's okay, but the process flow diagram just seems a bit strange. The final product sugar, involved in the production of the final product sugar. Just, I don't know, to my ear that just sounds a little bit unnatural. Let's find one more example, because if I get 3 examples, then for me that is enough to pull the lexical resource down to an 8. Culminate into is nice. Activity carried out. Yeah, the agricultural land feels a little bit too showy offy, like in the fields, fine, but in the agricultural land, I don't know. It's just thinking about, like, would I write that, or do I know other L1 users who would write, like, carried out in the agricultural land? To me, that stands out as just sounding a little bit off. So in this awareness of style and collocation, maybe it's just enough to pull, sorry about that, just enough to pull your score down to an 8. But certainly a lot of excellent language in there. Yeah, I don't even need to pull it out, but funnel, beautiful, very accurate. I assume this is correct, but I don't know what it means. Widely consumed, good. That's a very strong collocation. Culminate, good. To undergo, fantastic. So really a lot of high level vocab. But just because of those strange a few instances of kind of strange collocation, it's at an 8. And then finally, grammatical range and accuracy. Just going to have a look back through this. Again, there's a lot of passive in there, which is natural. There's a lot of present simple in there, but that's relevant to it. So the fact that there's not really much continuous or perfect, that won't hold you back much here, because we don't really expect it. We do get a bunch of complex sentences, fine. Any complex structures? Just give me a moment just to read back through. Yeah, I like this flexibility where, with the help of large specialized motor vehicles like a shredder coupled with a collector, are used as a unit. Yeah, that's a nice sentence. Maybe some commas might help here, but that's okay. The sugarcane produced in the field. So again, we have an example of a reduced relative clause, which is high level stuff. So yeah, enough range there for a high mark, and certainly a number of complex sentences. There are some issues with faulty punctuation. This after which sentence. So in the field, comma, after which it undergoes the harvesting in the field. I also thought that first and second thing was kind of strange. The first method of producing sugar can be categorized into 2 main sections. That looks strange. So maybe we just have a full stop here. Firstly, we can notice the process is carried out in the field, and secondly, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, probably 8 for grammatical range and accuracy. Let's just take some notes there. 8, the work is extremely accurate with a number of error-free back-to-back sentences. However, there are some instances of sloppy punctuation. Okay. So in total, what do we have? We have 7, 8, 8, 8. So overall, we get a band 8. 2 things to work on. My 2 pieces of advice for this candidate. Number 1, learn punctuation. I know punctuation in English is, like, the use of commas can be debatable. The rules aren't quite as strict in English as they are in many other languages, but certainly if you're learning about these, like, relative clauses, how the commas work in relative clauses, that's something that you can look at. But the key piece of advice I would give to this candidate, 2 more bits of advice. You should write at least 150 words. I would recommend not going higher than 200 words. And finally, don't add any extra details that are not included in the diagram. Number one, it just leads to more words. Number two, this could be seen by the examiner as irrelevant bits of information. And if there are any irrelevant bits of information, you're probably not going to get higher than a 7 for task achievement. So stick to the diagram. Even if you know extra information about the process, stick to describing the details in the diagram. There is nothing in this diagram that says that the limestone filter is or that the funnel is layered with limestone paper, right? That's not in the diagram. That's a detail that you've included. So stick to the details in the diagram. But overall, a very, very strong performance. Score of 8, and I think with a little bit of work, the candidate can get to an 8.5 or even a 9, which is very rare for writing. Yeah, so that's all for this. Hopefully you found that useful. If you do have any questions or comments, let me know. And if you'd like me to check your writing, also keep in mind I'm giving away free writing feedback in the month of June. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you and bye bye.